third and final phase kicks off with a massive match. IG versus LP, Sif versus OmegaZero, possibly the best Chinese player at the current time, although Lee may have something to say about that, versus almost certainly the best Chinese player from 3 years ago. One of their big hopes a long time ago, OmegaZero. Don't see much of him anymore in our tournaments, but he is still going strong in China. And Sif, who has come from nowhere, super hard worker in the last year or two, and is expected to do incredibly well for China in the next coming weeks and months, and potentially even in the global championships. He's earning points as well as a chance to get to the Chinese playoffs through this tournament. But IG in a great spot on 8 and 4. Although not so much now, he's just down to the Mount Seller in this one. But they're in a great spot to try and take down the entire tournament. The top 2 teams get a bye, the next 4 teams get into the playoffs, and the bottom 2 teams see ya in Season 2, because they'll be done for Season 1. Anyway, have a look at the lineups because they're quite interesting. Sif has brought the basic lineup that seems to work well in this last hero standing, the Warrior and the Demon Hunter being the best 2 classes, of course. Druid basically being the other class that everybody brings now. Sif is playing the Spell version, whereas OmegaZero is playing the Dragon version, and also the Warlock, which is interchangeable with Hunter and maybe Rogue sometimes. However, LP have brought Hunter and Priest, and that means they haven't got a Demon Hunter. I know this has been a widely criticised decision in the Chinese scene, and I agree. Why wouldn't you want Demon Hunter? Now, it is last hero standing, so it is the format that encourages you to have counter decks, and maybe they're scared of their Demon Hunter being countered by Warrior, but ban Warrior then. I don't like this lineup at all. I don't like not having Demon Hunter available to me, because if it does beat Warrior, it can go through our lineup. To be fair, in this exact matchup against Druid, Warlock and Warrior, it's not at its best, but it destroys Druid. I mean, yeah, I'm not happy, but LP are getting a lot of criticism for it, and they are very, very smart Hearthstone players. OmegaZero, Trunks, and X-Hope. So, who recently made a top 8, by the way, in a Masters Tour event. So, you know, they're going alright. It's just a bit wacky for me, especially when 5 and 7. I don't see the need to take any risks that could backfire and put you in that bottom 2. Anyway, while I've been waffling on, Sif has ramped into 1 million glowflies, and when that happens, the game tends to end in a hurry. That's nothing to do with lineups or anything. Both teams starting with Druid, and this is not a rare thing in Last Hero Standing. Druid doesn't have many decks that completely slaughter it, apart from maybe Demon Hunter. It doesn't completely slaughter many decks, so you can open up with it, see where you stand, and then start countering what your opponent did if you lose. If you win, obviously, you just keep going. But OmegaZero now in a really bad spot straight away. He's going to have to start burning through removal cards just to stay in the game. And wondering why he's taking so long here. He's got to do things like, is it so desperate I have to hope that Sif doesn't have Savage Roar? That is sometimes a play you have to make, because otherwise he's going to play Innovate, Bog Beam, couple of Moonfires, a Crystal Power, and how do you ever win from that situation? And he has decided that's what he needs to do. He's going to keep the Innovate, I think. So he's dead to double Savage Roar, and he knows that this is a losing play a huge percentage of the time. But controlling what he can within sense, whilst giving him a chance, maybe if a Mount Seller comes up or something, to do a wipeout. I think this is sensible. Gives him some element of hope. But really in a tough spot now. Sif needs to work out how much to protect. I mean, the obvious play is just to Soul of the Forest. Maybe you Wrath one of your own minions for 1. Just to try and get something for next turn. Next turn he's got Mount Seller, so interesting to see how it goes about. This is how he's thinking. He's going to Ironbark now, even though he has Mount Seller, because just having good minions is a thing. It also sets up, obviously, lethal. Very easily with a Savage Roar. OmegaZero rewarded, at least in theory, for holding on to some cards last turn, but is he going to make it pay with this Mount Seller? Try to see what else he might even possibly be looking at in this scenario. Could you ever overflow for any reason? No. Could you power the wild for any reason? Well, you can make some cheap minions, but you can do that with a Mount Seller. Just curious to see what he comes up with, if there's anything unusual that I'm missing here. It looks for all the world like Sif's going to go 1-0 up and put IG in an even stronger position. They are looking really good to take one of those top 2 spots, and they weren't doing that great early on. They're sort of doing okay, but really coming to their own, and he is actually going to overflow. Which means he's dead. And 1-0 to IG. I assume he's dead. I haven't actually counted it, but when a player plays that quickly, I tend to assume they've won the game. Rather trust them than me when it comes to numbers. Nice early lead for Invictus Gaming. Another thing with this tournament, the top 4 will go into the Gold Club World Cup, which is a mouthful that I'm going to get wrong at some point. And that's going to be a prestigious event. It's going to be kind of like the old China versus EU or China versus Americas tournaments, but it's 4 invited teams from the rest of the world and 4 qualified teams from this division, from this league, from China. And OmegaZero queues up the Priest. Can this take down the Druid? It's an interesting matchup, this. I don't know if we've really, in all honesty, decided which one is favoured out of these 2 head-to-head. I personally favour the Druid. I'm just going to check some stats now out of interest, if you hear me clicking around a little bit. But we have seen that stats are less and less reliable these days due to the breadth of archetypes. And yeah, this is basically 50-50. So OmegaZero's plan is to remove multiple boards. Sif's plan is to make multiple boards. That sounds easy. But the way you go about that as the Priest isn't just to hope for Breath of the Infinite, although that's obviously a good start. But if you can build your own little board, that can challenge the early glowflies and make things a lot harder for your opponent. So OmegaZero playing these minions, which looks like an attacking move, but it is a reactive move as much as anything. It's giving him extra removal spells. Each one of these minions on the board removes a glowfly. Think of it that way. So they're actually removal spells as well as obviously attacking minions. But basically OmegaZero's plan is to not let Sif have things. That's what priests do. And of course the pressure does put the Druid at least under some sort of clock, although it's a lot less relevant than you might think in this particular matchup. Right, well, Sif just going about his druidy business. Next turn he's going to have the opportunity to glowflies if he wants. Interested to see how he navigates that with the Soul of the Forest that's available to him. So he's going to have to keep an eye on. Note here also the inclusion of double Rusty Raider. I'm going to have to look through this deck list actually, because it's quite clearly not straightforward. And why would it be straightforward when they've brought such a strange lineup? Everything else at a glance looks normal. It's not always easy to tell when I'm looking through the Chinese deck lists, but I think it's pretty normal. What's been cut? One Shadow Madness seems to have been cut. And one Thought Steal seems to have been cut. Maybe a Sethek. There's one of each of those 3 cards, so whichever ones you feel have been cut, because you play 2 of them, they're the ones that have been cut. And you see here what OmegaZero has done with this nice curve. Has given himself a good chance to just destroy some of early Sif's incursions. Interesting here, chooses to go this way because of the Sethek he has on board. Rusty was definitely an option because it would have been quite difficult to get through, and there's another one coming next turn. But doing it this way means OmegaZero deletes the maximum amount of stuff. He is scared of a Soul of the Forest coming down, and rightly so, it was there. But first lot of stuff has been dealt with no difficulty at all here for OmegaZero. I guess there's a little bit of difficulty if you like the card advantage he lost and how Sif's looking for cards. Sif got some interesting issues now. He wants to overflow either now or next turn. But to do that, he needs to make some space in his hand. He definitely doesn't want to overdraw against a priest. Chances are he will go through all of his deck, and that's when overdrawing matters, because you don't have access to that card during the course of the game at all. And so he goes for this line that looks a little bit weird, but it achieves multiple goals. It keeps him ahead on the board, and also just dumps some of those cards so that maybe next turn he can overflow. He may have to coin and innovate into that overflow just to give himself the hand space required. Let's have a look how he approaches it. Obviously you would rather have those cards available to you after drawing your Mount Seller, so it's not straightforward, but he's trying not to waste them. And now he will probably have to use the coin before innovating, before playing the overflow. Obviously you play the coin, not the innovate. It gives your opponent less information. They know the coin exists, they don't know the innovate exists. So just the little things going well here. Sensible play. Right, does hit his Mount Seller, does hit his Sira. And now just has the choice to make of whether to get rid of a Crystal Power, a Moonfire, or an Innovate. Or overdraw next turn, because now he does have a lot of his stuff. But he doesn't want to lose the second Mount Seller. That's a card that could well come in handy. And so, doing this at least puts the Raider down to 3 health, where it can be dealt with a Bog Beam or whatever he chooses to use to deal with it next turn. He's going to have a lot of cards. He's going to have Mount Seller into Innovate Fungal Fortunes, for instance, available to him. You know, the turn after that he can play a Sira, and the turn after that he can overflow and draw the portals, for instance. And that's just the basic 1, 2, 3 of the situation, without even going into more sensible or deep plays. Always nice to get that rough plan of, you know, what's the simple things I can do? Get that clear in your head. Interesting that he's thinking of innovating first. Oh, he's just going straight into his Sira here. Saving the Mount Seller for the second attack. Well, the third attack, I guess. The glowflies were the first. Apotheosis, not necessarily as good for Priest in this matchup as it is in many other matchups. Reason for that being that when the Druid finally hits the Priest for significant damage, it'll probably kill them. So the healing is significantly less important. OmegaZero deciding that an 8-8 and a 4-12 is good enough. You don't get the battle cry, but it doesn't matter. 4-12s are good at controlling 2-2s, and the damage is now becoming relevant as well, the face damage. 14 available, plus the Apotheosis scissors. Apotheosi? I don't know how to pluralise this word. So that's 18 damage available next turn, and that is putting Sif on the back foot. He is continuing with the Ysera plan rather than the Mount Seller plan. Which means he's filling up his hand to have more to do with the Mount Seller as he goes. But he really is looking for those 0 manas. He hasn't got many left, Bog Beams, etc. And that's not worked out well for him. He's not hit a single dragon. And now he has, for the first time, genuine reason to think he might actually just die. So having to kill off some stuff now. Making space his hand for this second fungal. Very nicely worked here for Sif. And as I said earlier, I think the Chinese community think very, very highly of this player. He's somebody that we will not get the chance to ignore. The same as OmegaZero, like I say, 2 or 3 years ago. But Chinese Hearthstone has come a long way. To be the best of the Chinese players is a huge deal, I believe. Obviously, we are getting to see more of China's gameplay, both with videos like this, as well as Masters Tours, due to the worldwide situation, meaning that the Chinese players are getting to play from home, no visa restrictions and so on, so we're getting to see more of them, and I'm enjoying it, and hopefully, as this is video number 3912 in this series, so are you, and thank you for being here. If you happen to have hit this as your first one, maybe you're a Sif or an OmegaZero fan, or you just realise how big a matchup this is, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It does help us to know that you're there. Obviously, it reminds you that there's more Hearthstone available, but supporting the channel in that way means we can bring you more events like this, more the fringe events, if you like, to the English-speaking audience. Sif gets into the second glowflies, and still plenty more where that came from, but can he make it through the next 2 or 3 turns without dying? He's established the board he needs. He's got the Savage Roar in hand. And what can OmegaZero do about this? He has this turn and another turn, and then things will be going very badly for him. So he needs to hit that panic button right about now. Lots of calculation to do. Can he afford to do lots of trading down and just ignore the health total like I was talking about earlier? Try and run Sif out of stuff. He's seen quite a lot of stuff. But he must be a bit worried the way Sif has set this up with the Ysera pulling dragons here and there, and he knows there's Mount Sellers still to come. OmegaZero knows that this lot isn't going away anytime soon and doesn't really have the removal spells. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Thoughtstone. I'm nodding to myself here as if you can see me. Because he hasn't got answers, maybe the Thoughtstone will find him something. Okay, well, not the answers he was looking for. We have seen some players in this tournament play mind games as Priest against Druid. Of course, you pull a Mount Seller 2 times out of 3. But now that Dragon Druid is starting to become a little bit more popular, the one with the Emerald Explorers, the mind games seem to have been taking a back seat. Ysera for Sif, that's nice. Just extra damage. And the first thing he needs to do here really is work out the pros and cons of a Savage Roar. Does it fit nicely? Does it wipe out the board? It looks pretty good. Obviously, the downside is you haven't got a Savage Roar anymore. He used one very early on, I think. Maybe he did not, but I feel like he did. It's a problem when you watch 1,000 Druid games in a row. You start hallucinating Druid spells. But anyway, he still has to decide whether to use his Savage Roar or not to help him in clearing this board. My instinct is that it sets up numbers nicely, but also my instinct is that once you are out of Savage Roars, it makes it much, much easier for your priestly opponent to manage their removal, because they know that you don't have the insta threat. Sif's worked out to the best of his ability what he can do. See that he's not completely comfortable with how he's done it, but yeah, the aim was to clear up most of the stuff and do a lot of damage. That aim has been well and truly accomplished, and sometimes, and it's a sign of a good player, sometimes you know that you haven't quite mastered it in time. It wasn't an easy turn, so you proceed with the approximate game plan, which is remove the taunts, hit the opponent, and remove anything that trades nicely. This seems to fulfill those requirements. So OmegaZero, he does have that double apotheosis available to him. That's what, 11 damage and 11 healing. Wouldn't take him out of range of the board if he just inserted that into his opponent's face. Doesn't have the time to get the Death Rattle to clear up most of this board. And he does have to kill everything twice. This has been nicely worked by Sif. OmegaZero. Looks like he's just going to throw out the token gestures here. The Lightwell might help. I don't know if he even gets through this next turn. So he gains 8 if there's proper trading. That'll put him on to 18. 3, 6, 11, 14. Don't think it's lethal yet, but it's an awful lot of damage. It'd be lethal if Asura picked up an Awakens. I think any singular buff probably is lethal as well, as long as I haven't messed up my breakpoints. So if you're not going to kill your opponent, give him 5 health, not such a big deal. Interesting that he's happy to go for the overflow here though. That does burn through these portals. But he does find the second Savage Roar as he gets his entire deck sorted. Obviously wasn't in this game that it was played to sort things out. It must be the previous game. The damage does go through. And a 2-0 lead. IG on the verge of going to 9-4, which would be a tremendous record. So, game number 3. OmegaZero in this last hero standing is going to have to get it all done with Highlander Hunter. We've seen an uptick in Highlander Hunter in recent times, but as you can see, this is pre-nerf. Fumble Fortune still costs 2. So Highlander Hunter not yet at its peak. One of the things that Hunter can do against the Druid is just put pressure on. It is unable to deal with the boards, but this sort of start that OmegaZero has can just kill the Druid before the Druid gets a chance to do their thing. Especially when it's just a Glowfly version. Sif's kind of reliant on getting an early Glowflies, but he's going to do that. He's going to be putting on a lot of pressure though with this early these early pickups. Have a look how this might work out. Sif's going to Glowflies next turn, likely for 5/2/2s, but he's going to be facing a mini army by then. Oh my goodness! Like, OmegaZero will be able to trade into 4 of those if he wants to. Because of the pickup of the Zigzor Apex Predator, he can just kill off some of these. I mean, he might not even kill them all. He may choose to put the 2 minions with 2 attack to kill off 2 Glowflies. And put 9 to face to set up a lethal. Has Sif got another play? I think he realises what's going to happen if he makes this play. But surely nothing else makes sense. Like, you're even more exposed by not playing it. And this is what pro Hearthstone players do. He's identified that Glowfly Swarm's the obvious play. And even for what he can see, it's probably not enough. And obviously with the Zigzor, it's just even worse. So he's spending the whole time looking for another option. He'll be looking at all kinds of ludicrous things to try and make a play that isn't this one. But sometimes you just have to play with what's available to you, especially as Druid, where your deck kind of does one thing. Right, so OmegaZero's starting point here is he's always putting the 2/3 into a Glowfly. The Huffer's always going face, unless some craziness is worked out. And the real question is whether to play on curve with the Bone Wraith to defend your Huffer and Felmore, or whether to play the Zigzor Apex Predator to get rid of an extra minion. And that's a tough call. Playing the Bone Wraith has the advantage that next turn OmegaZero can play on curve, leave in a hero power, and still have the Zigzor available. Choose to go this way. The Felmore was always a tricky consideration because he didn't play the Zigzor. He felt that he needed to trade in the 5/4/4/1 removal, which is fine. It doesn't set up lethal this way is the downside of the play. The upside being that Sif has so few options this way. Shouldn't be able to get through the second part of the Bone Wraith. And OmegaZero only needs to survive to turn 7 to win the game. To his turn 7, which is like Druid turn 39 or something. But he's doing enough damage. He should be okay. The more I look at it, the more I think I wish the Felmore had gone face. Because 5's a lot and this can get crystal powered, is my version. In terms of baby speak. So yeah, I kind of wish that had gone face, but looking at how it's worked out, he has made Sif use an awful lot of resources here just to get level on board. Oh my. Choices. Dragonbane next turn looks really good. Quite like Zigzor hero power here. Puts OmegaZero down to 8. This also sets up lethal though, and is pretty formidable. 4 health being a big thing as well here, so Sif's still going to have his 4/4 available. Sorry, OmegaZero is going to have his 4/4 available. Sif's got nothing available. It's a rather big problem that he's having right now. Does still have his warrior and his warlock left after this, but having warrior up is the big deal here. The warlock matchup is much debated. I'm on the side that I think the warlock is the underdog. It is close, and a lot of very strong players believe that hunter is not favoured, his Warlock is favoured. But the reason I contest that is because when you win with Warlock, it feels great. And when you win with Hunter, it feels natural. And I think that the top players who are saying that the Warlock is favoured would be favoured if they played a lot from the other side as well. They're just good players who've got stats saying that Warlock beats Hunter because they beat their opponents because they're good at Hearthstone with a tough deck. That's my view. But honestly, tend to suggest you take the top player views over mine, but I'll present mine so you've got something to think about. Right, Dragon's Bane, open goal, pew, shoots, he scores, 11 points of damage. Pass it back to you, young man. With Bran in hand, with Dragon Bane still up. With that hero power is just going to tick away over 2 turns. So the crystal power is kind of overloaded. Does he want to use it for healing? Most probably. Otherwise he'd probably die next turn. It's not ideally used that way normally. So does Sif think he can win next turn? Because otherwise he's going to have to heal himself. Yeah. It's really not what you want to do. That's a waste of a good card, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do, as I think the phrase goes. This must be lethal. Yeah, OmegaZero is scratching his head, because I'm thinking the same. It's like, well, this must be lethal. Shadow Word Death, right? But how do you convince Zephyrus to give you it? That's the only question. There you go. Offered an owl as well, which I think he should have taken, because that's definitely the Q2 way to beat it, but nice work there. Getting the lethal in, and it's 2-1. LP back in this. But now it's warrior time for Sif. This opening hand for Sif. Play fair, come on. So you're keeping the egg, you're keeping the Terron, you're keeping the Inner Rage. Trying to work out if you ever keep the Armor Smith just for board presence because you have the Inner Rage. He actually gets rid of the Inner Rage as well. Gets another egg. What do I know? Well, what I know is he's probably going to go coin egg into Terron. And he's choking on his drink. And if he's choking on his drink seeing this hand, what's OmegaZero going to do after turn 3 when he sees this insane start? Absolutely crazy looking start. This might just be a non-game. So your plan as Hunter against the Warrior is to get on the board with those high health minions that he does have available to him. And fight back rapidly. Sif just taking a moment to make sure this all adds up. I mean, it does, we can see that. But we've seen a lot actually in the Gold Team Championship, players playing with their hands off the mouse until they're ready to do what they want to do. And I like that. I think there's a lot of impulsive players could benefit from that. This is a tough call. Warrior plays a lot of weapons and Sif kept 2 cards. With that in mind, OmegaZero is expecting a Corsair Cache or an Ankar very soon. But if he doesn't play the Swampoos now, when does he play it? Turn 3 he's looking to get down either his weapon or his Zigzor. Turn 4 the other one of those 2 things or the Bone Wraith. Turn 5 likely to be playing big dragons and killing things. So unfortunately for OmegaZero, much as he would like to kill a potential weapon with this, it's just better served as a 3-2 on the board. And it's actually one of the reasons why Swampoos kind of comes and goes in a lot of decks as tech. It doesn't really make sense to me to have it in your Hunter deck if you're going to ban Demon Hunter. I feel like this is a better card against Demon Hunter. It usually hits a target like Umberwing. I just think that this may be a little deck construction mistake here. Well, OmegaZero did get the best of the beasts with Misha here. He's just working out what to do with the other stuff. And the reason this is complicated is because he can use the weapon to kill off one of the serpents alongside the Swampoos, but then he's off curve, and horribly so. But he has got himself into this. Considering the hand that Sif got, OmegaZero's at least managed to do something. Valuing a 1-1 above his health total there, which is a valid call. He's going to have a lot of minions to deal with, so every point of health on board, every point of attack on board is going to matter. And Sif, obviously with the hand he was dealt, playing this in full aggro mode. Right, OmegaZero. This is where the 1-1, you can see the benefits of having that left on the board last turn. If he wants to now, he can trade into the Korkon Elite, and then the 2 Locusts will finish it off. That's all because he chose to lose a little health last turn for the sake of a measly little 1-1. Well, that 1-1 now is coming into its own. And it's a mistake, I think, that improving players make, is undervaluing one attack. Like, even a high health minion early in the game only has 3 or 4 or 5 health. So 1 is a quarter of that 4 you're trying to achieve. So what I'm saying is that 1 is actually more than you think it is. It sounds like a very small, useless number. Sometimes it just gets mowed down, obviously. This all is situational, the stuff I'm saying. Like this, like 1-1's not much good when Risky Skipper just blows up 1-1s. But yeah, value tempo, even if it's a small amount, is what I'm saying. A lot of the time that works out. Especially in current Hearthstone, where value is kind of easy to get. You can get the stuff you want. It's just, can you get it on the board? Right, well, Sif just had another fantastic turn. He's in such a great spot, and the problem here for OmegaZero is his big cards now don't do anything. Even if he draws them, which he hasn't done yet. Alexstrasza, Dinotamer Bran, they're going to put threats on board, but he's very soon going to be at a stage where he's just in danger of dying every single turn. And your threats mean nothing if your opponent just piles into your face and finishes you off. So he's trying to get as much stuff as he can on board as possible, but the problem he's finding is that his curve is messed up horribly here. So trying to spend as much mana as possible so he can do the same next turn. And next turn is not a very good looking curve either, but Varanus should help him tidy up any big issues next turn because he has managed to keep a charge on his weapon. So Sif's shown his intentions there, hovering over cards. He wants to mercenaries a brute, but didn't get that luxury the way things worked out, so instead he just makes an extra egg with the obvious intention to just have a huge board. OmegaZero through the course of this game has got slightly lower and lower in his chair. I'm not surprised. Sif has made it so that OmegaZero really has it tough here. Varanus helpful. It's a toughie. Is there anything you want to trade first, OmegaZero? So you can maybe get rid of a Serpent after the Varanus? It's got to be tempting, right? See what he chooses to do, because I feel like he should have traded into an egg first. No, he wants some face damage, feeling that Sif's eggs are so slow that he doesn't need to deal with them, or that his best chance involves not dealing with them. And when you see it on the board, that makes sense to me. This could get nasty now, though. But yeah, OmegaZero has fought back. He's got himself in a position where 2-turn lethal down the road. But I'm still sort of siding with Sif just because of the wealth of options he has available. He can deal with an awful lot of this board just by trading in eggs. Generate his new board. He did have available to him War Maul, Inner Rage and Bloodsworn Mercenaries. He no longer has that, having gone for the Corsair cash. Looking for the Ankar that would have fetched him his Risky Skipper. Gets it. Second time of asking. And tough decision, this one. All your human instincts as a Hearthstone player are to kill the 2-2, but you know, looking at the numbers, looking at how things work out, this sets up lethal. Killing the 2-2 doesn't do a whole lot. But 12 available on board, plus the Inner Rage is 14. So every reason there to go to the face. And OmegaZero, well, picking up Siamat means he has got a clear. He also can split it and use Siamat to kill off 2 of these and just punch 9 more to face. Playing this game of chicken, which might work out okay for him. Also has the option to be mega greedy. Play the Stormhammer, play the Zigzor, drop a hero power because I don't think the Secret's doing anything right now. And push a lot of damage to the face, just trading in the Zigzor and the Mage. So definitely worth him taking his time on this turn. But yeah, going for the original suggestion I was talking about, which is putting a lot of his own damage into Sif. Well, Sif's committed down this route now. And he's going to be able to generate a lot of bombs. And that is going to do damage either to face or to minions. He should be in a great spot here. After that, always amazing to watch Bomb Wrangler do her thing. 1 to face is about the worst that could have gone. Shift really doesn't want this 7 to hit. Remember, he could just be dead to Bran next turn if he's not careful here. If Varanus sits on the board. So he does need to be thoughtful about this. Alright, that helps. And because of the Inner Rage in hand, he clears up the board. There's a lot of damage out there now. He's safe from Dino Tamer Bran. He hasn't had to use resources too badly. And OmegaZero is staring down defeat with the lineup that ends up not having a Demon Hunter in it. And it was just too much to take on Warrior and Friends without having your own power deck. One of Warrior and Demon Hunter. So So it looks like Sif is going to go to, or IG are going to go to 9 and 4, and LP are going to sink to 5 and 8, and that could be a decisive for both of these two teams. It has been a very close league through to at least week 5, and then week 6 we started to see a little separation coming about. And as you can see now, the difference between 9 and 4 and 5 and 8 is pretty huge. There's only 5 matches remaining for these teams in the league phase. So OmegaZero choosing to not be dead on board. Makes sense to me. He's dead to various things here though. So many things. He's dead if the lance finds a damage or a buff. He's dead if the bomb hits face for more than 1 after it trades in. This is the ordering he's gone for. This sets up putting the bomb into the Zigzor, which explodes the bomb, and if it goes 2 or more is lethal damage. But first of all, he's looking for what else he's got to maybe secure a guaranteed lethal. This is why I like Sif's play. Looks through all of the options, because what happens if it does roll 1 into the face? You can lose this game. You're only on 14. So now he's looking for the buff, which is again a way of trying to guarantee it without having to put the bomb in. Finds the Kobold Lackey, and Sif takes it down 3-1. OmegaZero not impressed, but he was going to lose that. And Sif and Invictus Gaming having a great start to this third phase.